to learn how to code for real. Definitely a good skill. If you're trying to learn how to code for games, why don't you just follow the Pirate Software stuff? Develop.games. Yeah, this one. Then you can just go into skills required, programming. And you'll just see, like, he gives you examples of games that don't have anything amazing. So for instance, if you're bad at art, then there's a game called Thomas Was Alone. It's just rectangles. If you are, and then suits, pixel art, stick figures. This is West of Loathing, and Nepenthe. Then you don't need to be an amazing musician. You don't need good music. Hidden Folks. That apart is the audio. Everything I do, everything is mouth sounds. I can learn anything technically. Yeah, but if you keep thinking about what you could learn and then not learning, then you've learned nothing. You just always stay in a state of potential. And then Undertale was made horribly. The programming was very mediocre. He's a more novice programmer at the time. Tools you could use: Godot, Game Maker, Unreal Engine, RenPy. And some art you could use for your game. How to raise money, you could stream it. You could use publishers, you could Kickstarter it, you could sell merch. You could use Ko-fi or Coffee. It's like Patreon, but less bad. Scams. Scam people. No, the coding is good because it works. Like, that's all that coding is. If it works, it's good. But in terms of actual programming design, and if a professional programmer were to look at the code, would they flinch in pain at Undertale's code? Yeah. Like, it just looks horrible. It's inefficient. But it's a very small game. A very bite-sized game. It's not intense at all. Just a few pixel arts here and there. So really, you don't need to be good at coding. As long as it works. You can even use ChatGPT to help you. But look, you gotta start somewhere. And you gotta start. Even if you start at the art. You start drawing. Before even the game. Before you even code. Sure. You could start the story. You could start... You could do a bit of both. You draw some part. You write some story. You code it a little bit. You move forward, do the same thing. Like, you could just do any of those. Play some music. But you gotta start. That's the biggest thing. If you keep talking about what you should do and what you shouldn't do, you don't have anything installed. You don't even have the program installed. You don't even have the ideas written down. You don't even have a story. You don't even have a storyboard written. You don't even have like an idea of what the characters look like. You don't have any of that, and you're not doing anything. Take baby steps, but do take steps. A bit of Sphinx wisdom out here. So let's say you, as a person, this is you, are hungry. Rumble, tummy hungry. Okay, and you want to eat. You are now thinking you want to eat, like, you know, a drumstick or something, right? So what do? You order food. But then you get this, instead of getting a drumstick, you're so hungry, you get a whole chicken. Right? You get a whole chicken. It's alive. Now you're like, wait, I'm hungry though. And I wanted some chicken, but this is not what I wanted. This is so much more than I wanted. It's like, it's so different than what I expected. I don't know what to do. I'm still hungry, but I can't eat this. This makes no sense. What do I do? So you start thinking of all these questions, and you're like, sort of paralyzed. You're like, I don't know. I can't move. I don't know what to do with this chicken, but I'm so hungry. How do I eat? What do I feed myself? So now you're stuck in this like little conundrum. So what do? You just leave it. You're like, alright. Until I figure this out, I'm not eating because I want chicken. And I have the chicken right there. So until I figure it out, I'm not doing nothing. But actually, what you need to do is to take a first step. Your first step is probably going to be buying the right ingredients. You know, you gotta have salt, pepper. You gotta have the right tools. You gotta have a pot. You gotta have water. You gotta have an oven. You gotta have utensils. You gotta have plates. You know what I mean? So now you have the tools. This is having all the tools handy. Like, this is, in terms of game dev, this is your game, by the way. The chicken is the game. You want the game. Or you want to code in this case. The drumstick is the code. The chicken is the game. Because the chicken is not just code. The tools you have are your computer. You have your PC. You have the internet. You have creativity. You have instruments if you want to play music. You have, you know, software, some sort of software or apps that you use to draw, to make games, whatever it is. Then you have those. Now you have the tools. You already take step one. Next, what you need after the tools is instructions. Now you need instructions or steps. Kill chicken, you know. Then you have prepare oven. Clean chicken. Cut chicken, I don't know. You prep it in a certain way. Season chicken. Right? It's the same thing as write a story. Make some background music. Draw some art. Write or code something. You know, chapter 1 or the prologue or just some random thing. Now you have instructions. So far you're doing well. You're just following the process. Now, you have all this stuff, and you just gotta execute. Okay? Just follow the instructions. Sometimes it might get messy. You might preheat the oven, and then try to go kill the chicken, it's ran away. You try to go clean the chicken after you found it and killed it. You don't know what that means. You don't know how to do it. You try to cut it up so you have the right pieces that you want. You cut yourself in the process. You hurt yourself. Seasoned chicken, you don't have the right seasoning. You want to change up your seasoning. You don't have enough. It's the same thing here. You know, you write a story, you write a bit of a story, and then you get to a point and you're like, wait, this is not a nearly enough story. You make some background music, you do it. Oh, it doesn't fit the part that you're talking about. You draw some art. Doesn't mean the vibe doesn't match. It's bad drawings. It's whatever it is. You write some code, it's janky, it's buggy, it's broken, it's not good. But all these things are manageable. End of the day, you still have your tools. You still have your instructions. You still have knowledge of what you need to do. You just need to keep doing it until something works. The right combination will work. You gotta have the right combination. Combo. Correct. You gotta execute. That's all. Now, once you execute, you'll obviously run into issues. But at the end of it, you'll have some chicken. It'll be nice and hot. It'll be so good. At least it looks good. It might not look good. It might look horrible. But you have some semblance. Now, you're trying to eat the chicken. You're still really hungry. Remember? You haven't had chicken this whole time. Your craving is still there. You want to satisfy it. But now this chicken's huge. You can't eat all this. You're only a little guy or little girl. Your mouth is only this big. This is your mouth. Look how small your mouth is. You can't eat all this. So what are you gonna do? You cut it up into digestible parts. You have a little bit of chicken breast. You have a little bit of the drumstick. A little bit of the other drumstick. You have a wing. I don't know what wings look like. And then you have another wing. Then you can dig into the breast and you can have more of the chicken. But what at the end of the day is, you're making progress on this chicken. And you're eating it. Why do you want to eat all this? You don't have to eat all this. The same way you don't have to do all this. You could just do what you can. You could eat the one drumstick and a wing. You could have good code and good music. But you could have a horrible story and a horrible art. You could have only good code. Everything else is very mediocre and mid. You could have only good story. Everything else is mid. You could have 3 of the things. Whatever mix you want. But end of the day is, you gotta cut the chicken up. You gotta cut your goal up into things that are more digestible and more edible for you. You have the idea. You have the tools. You have your instructions. You know how to do it. Pick a part, get it done. Focus on it only. This chicken might come out raw. This chicken might come out burnt. Might be seasoned horribly. You know? Oven might not have been hot enough. You might have forgotten some organs in there. You didn't clean it properly. You didn't cut it at all. You know? The head might still be on here. Little sad chicken right there. Seasoning might be atrocious. Whatever it is, you made it. Not something to be proud of. You just gotta keep making it. Eventually you'll make a great chicken. And you'll enjoy your own food. The same way you'll make a great game. Or a great piece of software. Or a great piece of crochet. Or whatever it is. You just gotta keep trying. But every time you think to yourself, I need to know how to code. Or I need to know how to do good art. Or how to make good music. Or write a great story. I want to perfect all this. I know. It's easy to want to be perfect about it. But you do not know what perfect is. You do not know what perfect is. You do not know how much effort goes into being perfect. You do not know the first thing about perfection in any of these things that you are unaware of. Because you have not made anything that's perfect. And that's okay. And this will not come out perfect. If you can name things that you have done that are perfect, then you are not aware of what perfection is. Because perfect is subjective. The same way you've played the perfect game, some devs will be like, no, it's not perfect. It's got issues here and there. It's subjective. It don't matter. Do your thing. But the most important thing is to have your tools ready to start cooking. That's all. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Back to Mr. Beast scamming millions from millions of dollars. You have advice on naming things in general, like games, character, blah blah blah. For naming things, so there's like the easy way and the hard way. The easy way will get out of your mind, but may not have as much of a payoff later down the line, and you may have to change it because you went the easy route. But the hard way will eat away at you for a while, but I think will make you feel satisfied by the end. So the easy way of naming something, a game, a character, whatever, is to literally just pick a name. Steve, Jennifer, or name of anything else. You know, you could be chair, keyboard, desk, salt, pepper. Throw a name. You know? But the idea is that you just put a place marker for now and you forget about it. But what could happen, obviously, in that scenario is you forgot the name. The name isn't impactful. You don't really care about the name anymore. You can't find a name that fits the thing. And honestly, sometimes the name is very important because it dictates the direction, the general direction of the game, or the movie, or the character, or whatever. You know? So you could go that route, and then as you get inspiration for the character or for the game, you could adjust the name. You know, you could go from like Salt to Hero to Heroes Landing to Heroes Strikers, or whatever it is, you know? Heroes and Villains, whatever you want to do. As the game goes on, you sort of just change the name. And that's the easy way, but you may not feel as satisfied by the end because you didn't invest as much time into it. You won't feel like you put much effort into it. It just sort of happened. The other way, which is harder, is you get yourself, and you could get some friends in, even some colleagues you want to help you on this thing, and just sort of brainstorm. You brainstorm ideas about the game, you brainstorm names, you brainstorm characters, you brainstorm themes, you brainstorm stories. Then you just start throwing words here and there, and you're like, what about this name, what about that name, what about this name, what about this title? And then eventually you all agree, or something resonates with you and you're like, okay, we'll go with that one. And you invested a certain amount of time into it. It could be a lot of time, depending on your personality and how indecisive you are. Could be a lot of time, but by the end, you've done your due diligence. You have committed a huge amount of time to this, and this is something you're satisfied with. The downside to that is A, you spend time on it, and B, you are now probably going to be attached to that name or title. It'll be very hard for you to let go of it. Like, let's say you go with, like, you know, spend all this time and you decide Hero of the Spoon. That's the name of the game. And then you start playing the game, you start creating it, the music's going, you got good art, you got good code, you got good background art, you got good music, you got a good story. But then there's this one part where you're like, oh, this game, I actually made it too serious, and I can't just make the character have a spoon. Or, like, you know, having the hero having a spoon doesn't make any sense anymore. Now you're gonna be more reluctant to let go of the name than you are going to be reluctant to change the entire direction of the game. And that could be detrimental. So no matter which route you take, just as long as you are satisfied or content with the name or the title, and that you are flexible to letting it go. You should not be attached to the name. If you are attached to the name, it makes it very inflexible. It makes it very hard to move around, shift things around. You're not very versatile. Your game is going in one direction only, which could be good, but most of the time it's going to be bad. The reason it could be good, if you are very indecisive and you're very distracted, and then you want a little bit of action, then you want a little bit of story, then you want a little bit of quick time events, then you want a little bit of, you know, decision making, then you want a little bit of multiplayer, then you want a little bit of pixel art, then you want a little bit of 3D art, then you want a little bit of, you know, like all this stuff. You don't want that. So a title could honestly direct you, but most of the time it just comes to self-discipline and just whether you have a direction for the game or not. So names and titles, these are the issues that could come with it, but whatever you do, you should be flexible with, is what is my advice. Be flexible. You want to hold on to the name like you're the one who's feeding your sibling, or like giving them a cup of water. Like imagine your sibling unable to use their hands for whatever reason, and then you're the one who's trying to give them food in their mouth or pour water in their mouth. You know, you're gonna want to do it, but a part of you is always gonna be like, if it spills, you don't care, or if it spills a little bit, if you make a bit of a mess, you don't care. In fact, it might be a bit funny. Part of you sort of wants it to happen. Like, that's how committed you are. You should be to the name. How much grip you have on that spoon or that cup should be how committed you are to the title or to the name. Do that with Chuo. So there should be some commitment, not zero, but also shouldn't be full commitment. Obviously, and then the last thing, you could get inspiration. This is very luck based. You don't want to depend on it. Sometimes you may need the title to begin with. Sometimes you don't need it until the very end. Whatever it is, I wouldn't depend on the inspiration-based one. If you're lucky enough to get one before you even start developing, great. You get to see it, to get inspiration from the first storyboard, great. You get it by the end, okay, great. You made it this far. You have a title now. But I wouldn't depend on it, because if you push comes to shove and you have to now publish it and you don't have a name, you will have to rush it, because there are deadlines. There are deadlines in life that you set yourself. You know, there are really no deadlines in life. Anyway, that's all.